Of course, where is it all leading? Where is it all leading? It's leading directly into unity with the demonic, brothers and sisters. It's going and leading to the Übermensch, the Superman, the devil's man of iniquity, and those united in him form this mystical body of the Antichrist. This is where things are headed. A vision of man, very important. We've seen it is inseparable from the Enlightenment and from the theory of evolution and from Nietzsche. All of these things are the intellectual roots and the forefathers of transhumanism. It saw man as one time as an ape, and now it will see supposedly man as a superman, and he will stand and he will look on the basis of his new heights that he's achieved of the Superman. He will look back on humanity as this picture shows you, and he will be a god over the rest of humanity, the past that was humanity. So this is, of course, all leading toward the man of iniquity. But on the other hand, it's nothing really new, is it? We've seen this before in history. The transhumanists are merely seeking to build a new Tower of Babel, to reach unto heaven and thus make a name for themselves. Genesis 11:4. The Babylonians used the technology of their day, brick and mortar, and the transhumanists, the new Babylonians, they use AI, genetic engineering, and other modern technology. And just like the blind Babylonians of old, with desperate actions of self-preservation, they seek life and unity outside of union with God, outside of themselves, ultimately, and outside of God, of course. They imagine God-like greatness in their demonically inspired arrogance, much of which will not happen, and for which they will also be scattered. They will also be scattered as they were in the days of the Tower of Babel, and they will be shattered like a potter's vessel, like those who resisted the God-man in his incarnation in the times of the Lord's crucifixion. They will be shattered because this is abomination in the sight of God. If then, however, their Luciferic plans of God-like recreation and autonomy are doomed, what is the meaning of transhumanism? And what will it accomplish? What is the meaning of transhumanism? And what will it accomplish? It is my understanding, my belief, my conclusion that transhumanism, like communism before it, is actually a very powerful heresy whose central thesis is Chiliasm. This is Father Seraphim Rose talking 60 years ago. History is to reach its culmination in an indefinite state of earthly blessedness, supposedly, a perfected mankind living in perfect harmony and peace. Again, one finds the same theme of the coming of the kingdom of God on earth. Wherever you see the gospel, the church, the preachers of the church, Christians supposedly in name, preaching heavenly peace, earthly peace, heaven on earth, in the midst of the fallen humanity, an end to war, a unity of all mankind, and all of this dreamy utopian vision for humanity without God, outside of the incarnation, outside of the mysteries, outside of the continuation incarnation of the church. This is the self-same spirit of Chiliasm, of utopia, of coming of Antichrist. It's one and the same. So not unlike the various utopias before, this is the newest version. It's the latest form of the mystery of iniquity, and thus a preparation for and a path to Antichrist. It's the ultimate transition from atheistic humanism to satanic superhumanism. Its purpose is to shape the Übermensch of Nietzsche, but with his Luciferic lightning striking the earth through the superintelligence of AI. AI is, everybody's looking for AI. What's AI going to give us? Well, now we can play games on the internet. We can talk to an AI. A new AI has been introduced, and course, it's filled with the bias and the passions and the arrogance of its creators, but no bother. We're super excited about this new toy we can go and play without. Why do we want to turn away from our fellow human being? Well, because we don't even know who we are. We don't even understand what our purpose of our life is. So we'd rather be with a machine and talk to a machine. If humanism was the greatest sin of all, as Elder Athanasius Teleneo says, if humanism was the greatest sin of all, right? Because it's man-centered, it places all trust in whatsoever the human mind produces. This is the Enlightenment. This is humanism, right? If that's the greatest sin of all. Well, transhumanism, with its Luciferic promise of an autonomous humanity, which will have the keys to life and death, is demon-centered. It's demonically oriented, right? Abandoning humanity to the super intellect, which will animate the expected AI super Antichrist, Superman Antichrist, right? It's all going to lead to submission to this Superman, which will be none other than the Antichrist. Transhumanism is the path, brothers and sisters, to Antichrist for another reason. Whereas humanism took man from its God-centered unity in the only one who united all things in himself, the Theanthropos, transhumanism transcends human limitations by placing unity beyond man in Superman. Transhumanism is thus leading man directly into unity with the demonic, as we said. The rejection of the God-man on a global scale and his replacement by the man-God is the last temptation of history. It has been prophesied by Christ himself in the book of Revelation. He says about the end times, the last temptation, "Thou hast kept the word of my patience, and I will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon the whole world, to try them that dwell upon the earth." And Elder Athanasius and others say, because this temptation will affect the entire world, it is none other than the temptation to reject the Theanthropos, the great adulteration of faith in the Theanthropos, the theanthropic person of Jesus Christ. And how will that be? By the acceptance of man, of the Superman, of the post-human creation of man. We must not be naive. Idolatrous transhumanist utopian fantasy is alluring to modern man and those chestless men, right? That C.S. Lewis talks about. And it will ensnare not a few secularized so-called Christians into denying the theanthropic nature of Christ and his body. This is the temptation that will touch many who call themselves Christians because they have not the Spirit of God. And they will say, and there's already a transhumanist Christian movement, believe it or not. People who call themselves Christians and yet are embracing transhumanism. There's books and there's a defense supposedly of this position, which is, of course, indefensible. 60 years ago, Father Seraphim Rose wrote of the great adulteration of faith with such insight that it is still tremendously illuminating today in the face of the further development of the chiliastic outlook which so animates these last times. And he says, the kingdom is not of the world, and Christianity can be successful, quote unquote, on one condition, that of renouncing the true kingdom, the true theanthropos, right? The true end, which is theosis, right? You have to renounce this if you're going to be successful in this world. Renouncing it and seeking to build up a kingdom in this world. You see this going on right now, all around us. This is what's happening, right? We're in the midst of this whole development, a kingdom on earth. And many who call themselves Christians will embrace this, and have already embraced it. They're already working toward it. This is a big part of the humanist heresy, right? Embracing and working for the good of man, for success, for peace, for the environment, for all these things, putting aside the preaching of the gospel, putting aside the preaching of the crucified one. What does Paul say? I preach Christ crucified, he said, right? What does that mean? that we're not here for this fallen world. This is a passing, sick world. And we're already living in the kingdom. We're already looking to the eschaton. This is not for us. We are pilgrims. We are strangers here. So when you see Christians of whatever stripe, including patriarchs and bishops and theologians, striving and turning on with all their attention toward the betterment, the improvement, the increase, the enhancement of mankind as such in this fallen world, without reference, without incorporation, without initiation into the incarnation, then you have this great temptation of the last times. You have the great adulteration of faith already. And we're watching it before us. We're watching it unfold in real time before us. The earthly kingdom is precisely the goal of the modern mentality. The building of it is the meaning of the modern age. Father Seraphim Rose. It is not Christian. As Christians know, we know that this kingdom is not the kingdom that's not of this world. It's the kingdom of the Antichrist. The modern idealism that hopes for heaven on earth hopes likewise for the vague transformation of man, right? This is what transhumanism is all about, transformation of man. The ideal of the Superman, diverse forms, conscious or not, which, however absurd, and indeed this vision is extremely absurd, and the arrogance of extremity, that unbelievable. It has great appeal to a mentality that has been trained to believe in evolution and progress. You see here the great failure of many Orthodox theologians, so-called. Those who've gone before us, even those who were Orthodox in many ways, and who have taught us much. They have failed the Orthodox by not understanding the importance of evolution, by indeed being in favor of evolution. Just a few days ago, there was the repose of Metropolitan John of Zulis of Pergamon, who, as I understand it, was okay with evolution. He reconciled Orthodox theology with evolution. God help us when we don't even understand the cornerstone of the modern man and his vision and the mentality is evolution. You cannot understand this world today without evolution, which is not just a scientific theory, of course, but a whole religion, a whole philosophy, a whole mentality of which is now being ending and coming to fruition in transhumanism. The spirit behind transhumanism is the self-same spirit which, seeking an earthly paradise, prepares the way for Antichrist. For it, Christianity is a crusade, right? It's about achieving worldly goals. That's what he means here. Christ is now an idea. He's a great teacher, like the Arians believe, and many of the Protestants. They don't understand his theanthropic nature, the church's theanthropic nature. They don't understand theosis, right? That means that we have Christ as a teacher or someone who saves us from a distance and all the rest of the various soteriologies which are delusional. There are those who call themselves Christians who have such an idea about Christ and the church. In the service of the world, a world transformed by scientific and social techniques, and a man virtually deified by the awakening of a new consciousness, this lies before us. Prophetic words from Father Seraphim Rose 60 years ago. Let me repeat that last line. In the service of a world transformed by scientific and social techniques, pretty much describes the whole progress of science, like AI and all the rest, and a man virtually deified, the new man that they're creating, by the awakening of a new consciousness. Supposedly they're going to merge consciousness with artificial intelligence. This lies before us, brothers and sisters. This is what we're dealing with. So what are we going to do? What should be our stance? Well, first of all, have no fear. We must not be surprised or shaken before the satanic dream of transhumanism. We must not be surprised or shaken. The Lord promised that he will be with us until the end of the age. And even before the face of Antichrist, he commands us to not be afraid. For we not only know the Alpha and Omega of history, we are members of his body, one with him, and therefore we have an unction from the Holy One, and we know all things. Evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived, according to the Apostle Paul. And in the book of Revelation, we read that he that is unjust, the Logos tells us, let him be unjust still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. For behold, the Lord says, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according to the work, as his work shall be. Our reward, brothers and sisters, is Christ himself. We want nothing else. We want nothing from this world. We want no utopia. We want no rewards. We want nothing. We absolutely want nothing from this world except to be with Christ before we depart from this life. Our reward is Christ himself, and he will in no wise lose us from his hand, but will raise us up on the last day. This is his promise. This is what he's already given us in the life of the church. So we have nothing to fear. Glory be to God that he gives us eyes to see through our holy fathers. He gives us a sense of what's happening. We're not sleepwalking. We're observing, and we're going to avoid, as St. Ignatius Branchodino says, flee and avoid the great apostasy, the great temptation that's coming to humanity.